Starting 8 weeks ago, the rule is game. I'm the boss here, I'll take fame with my fantasy team. Gonna rise to the top, no one can stop me. Gonna make them drop.
Hello everybody, and welcome to 38 Weeks to Go, your weekly podcast about fantasy football. How was Game Week 30 for you? The average was 44. Did you beat that? I used my wild card. Did I get over 44? Yes. Am I happy about it? Well, not really. So I brought in players that I was happy to have, but I only got 52. But a lot of that is because of my own indecision. For example, I had Sels as keeper and Milenkovic as a defender. 14 points. I left them straight on the bench. And then I told you guys all about how I'm going to bet against Leicester, which I did. Except Haaland got injured, which was not part of the plan, but he got injured anyway. So what that led me to do was to bring in Mamouche and Vardiol. The problem was I captained Salah instead of Mamouche. I wanted to do that because I'm betting against Leicester and I anticipated a bigger score than 2-0. So the combination of not captaining Mamouche plus leaving Milenkovic and Sels on the bench cost me, let's say, over 30 points. So from that perspective, I'm not happy because I could have done better. But my problem is that I don't want to say I fear success, but I fear what I already know. And what I already know is that Nottingham Forest are a good team. And they've kept a clean sheet against pretty much everybody. And even when I have that evidence, I can't believe in them. And therefore, I just want to share this in order to tell you guys to believe in your gut, even if you don't believe in it. Does that make sense? Like, I know Forest are a good team. They kept clean sheets against pretty much everybody. I know this. And that's why I had those players in my team, because I know how good they are. But when it came to actually playing them, I did not do that. And some of you guys may be like me. And I hope that you're not regretting it like I am. Every now and then I see the title of a book, and the title goes something like The Mountain Is You. And I have no idea what that book is about. But this situation makes me feel like I am the one who has to overcome myself and my beliefs that are holding me back from fantasy success, because it's just self-sabotage at this point. And if you are your own mountains, find a way to defeat yourself. Turn that mountain into a molehill, not the other way around. So I got 52 points, like I said, and I banked on Newcastle, Manchester City, and Crystal Palace as my main stays in my team. So I had Isak up top. He got 8, which is good. Mateta got 1. And if Haaland was there, he was the one who would have dropped out. Mamouche got 9. Salah gave me 6 as captain. Jacob Murphy gave me 5. Merino from Arsenal gave me 10. Sarr gave me 2. Kirkes gave me 1. Munoz gave me 2. Vardiol gave me 6. And Raya gave me 2. On the bench, I had Kluivert, Sels, Ban, and Milenkovic. So when trying to figure out what went wrong with Game Week 30, the first and most obvious thing is that Salah underperformed. He did not score or have an assist, and apart from a header he had, he looked pretty much absent from that game. Crystal Palace let us down. Everybody was getting ready for the double game week, so a bunch of people have brought in Crystal Palace players, but they could not keep a clean sheet. Mateta, Sarr, Eze could not score or assist. And they scored in the 90th minute. So of course, that was a big letdown. I mean, they're playing Southampton. I know for many teams in our league, the Haaland news came out late, and so maybe some people didn't have time to adjust. But then there are also a bunch of people who just have Haaland no matter what. And those people suffered and will suffer because a lot of those people are inactive managers. Bournemouth didn't perform. Clivert didn't play. They lost 2-1 to Ipswich. Ipswich are always competitive. I keep saying that. They're always competitive. So they have the potential to do this. And they did. So unless you had Evan Nilsson or Cook, you were cooked. After last week, or rather not last week, but the previous game week, when Fernandes was the king of the game week, a bunch of us brought him in. Not me, but a bunch of us did. And he did nothing. After getting rid of Palmer, he has an assist. I mean, it's not much, but it's better than nothing. When it comes to bogey teams, it seems like we should take it seriously when it comes to Brighton. They had a poor record against Aston Villa, and they just continued to deliver. I don't know if that's the right word, but they were beaten humbly. Is it time to believe in Rashford and Asensio? Maybe. And for those of us who placed our belief in the Joao Pedros and the Mitomas, we were burnt as well. And then there was the Wolves problem. We believed that these fixtures are kind for Wolves, but we just didn't know who to go with. We thought Strand Larsen might not play, and guess what? He starts and he scores. Fantasy is so tricky. Arsenal conceded a goal in the 90+ minute. So for those of us who had either the goalkeeper or a defender, that was very heartbreaking. It was also generally a low-scoring weekend, with the highest being 3-0. And that was Aston Villa defeating Brighton. Aston Villa just looked like the better team. It was quite, I don't want to say surprising, but Brighton have not been bad of late, and so I thought this game would be more competitive. They did have a disallowed goal, and they did have chances. I mean, Aston Villa's keeper made more clear saves. But this game was the Rodgers, Asensio, Rashford trio. They really delivered. Rashford also had a goal disallowed earlier. So both sides had a goal disallowed, so I guess it cancelled each other out. Rashford scored, Asensio scored, Haaland scored. Rodgers had 2 assists and Asensio had 1. It's so hard to see or believe that Watkins has just sort of disappeared. Anyway, Asensio had the 3 bonus points, Pau had 2, Pau Torres, and Rodgers had 1. When looking for the most surprising scoreline, it's sort of close, but Ipswich 2, Bournemouth 1 is the surprising score. Now, Bournemouth did have chances. Their goalkeeper Palmer, now for Ipswich, did make more saves. It just almost feels like Ipswich just scored, but Bournemouth had chances, they just couldn't put them away. Broadhead scored, and then Delap scored, and both goals sort of seemed like out of nowhere. They just took their chances, and at this level, that's what you're supposed to do, so well done to them. Bournemouth only scored once through Evan Nilsson, and that boy has been doing low-key well ever since he got back from his leg injury. And Ciso and Townsend had the assists for Ipswich. Delap had the 3 bonus points, Evan Nilsson had 2, and Cook had 1. Cook had the assist for Evan Nilsson's goal. When it comes to round performers, in goal, Sells was a top goalie performer. He had 8 points. Martinez had 6, Sanchez had 6, Kelleher had 6, and Edison had 6. When it comes to defense, Murillo had 9, and he had a nice save at the end. Pau Torres had 8. Gusto had 8. Virgil van Dijk had 8. He was lucky. Liverpool lucky not to concede. Ait Nouri had 8. He's lucky having a comeback, but just not in the way we thought. Timber, Robertson, Doherty had 7. When it comes to midfield, Asensio is a top performer midfielder with 12, followed by Enzo Fernandez, who had 11. Elanga had 11 as well. Great goal against Manchester United. His goal was really great, and also Tonali's goal against, who did Newcastle beat? Brentford. Was a fluke, but still a great goal. Anyway, Elanga 11, Merino 10, Rodgers 10, Tonali 10. So, Asensio was the player of the week. 12. Shows you it wasn't a great performing week. Up top, the top performing player was a tie between Delap, Mamouche, and Strand Larsen, who all got 9. Evan Nilsson and Isak both got 8. So, let's go over the stats from Game Week 30. Last night's 1-0 victory over Tottenham is the 14th time Chelsea have beaten Tottenham 2-0 at Stamford Bridge in the Premier League, only winning more matches without conceding against Newcastle United, which is 15. As in, Newcastle is the team they've beaten 1-0 the most in the Premier League. Second is Tottenham, which is 14 times. Enzo Fernandez becomes the third Chelsea player to score home and away against Tottenham in a Premier League season, after Roberto Di Matteo and Gasboye. Talk about club legends. Luis Diaz created 6 chances against Everton. That is the most a Liverpool player has done in a match since Mo Salah did it in 2017. Also 6. An unwanted record. Ruud van Nistelrooy is the first manager to lead the same team on 2 separate 7-game losing runs in a top-flight season since Freddie Cox did it in 1958-59 with Portsmouth. Honestly, it seems like they would have been better off without him. Leicester have now gone 8 out of 9 games without scoring a goal. 8 out of 9 games. 8. Bet against Leicester. Ever since his Aston Villa debut on February 9th, Asensio has scored more goals in all competitions than any Premier League player, which is 8. What a great signing he was. Isak is the third Newcastle player to score 10-plus goals, both home and away, in a single season, after Andrew Cole, who did it in 93-94, and Shearer did it in 01-02. I guess at this point he's now a club legend. Isak becomes the first Newcastle player to score 20-plus goals in back-to-back Premier League seasons. I honestly can't believe this was my first week having him in my team. Jack Grealish scored for Manchester City. It was his first goal of the season. Harry Maguire accumulated more XG, expected goals, in added time against Nottingham Forest than Rasmus Haaland has had in his last 15 appearances for Manchester United. Wow. Cole Palmer had an assist in this game against Spurs last night. It was his first goal involvement since December 1. Marcus Rashford has scored 4 goals in his last 2 games. It seems like Villa players are just picking up form at the right time. On the other hand, it's also making Manchester United look a little bad because Rashford is doing well. Anthony is successful on the other end. Is it the club? Is it the management? What is the problem? Saka is back and he scored within first 5 minutes of being on. And that's great news. In sad news, Gabriel is potentially out for the rest of the season. Or rather, he is out for the rest of the season. With his goal, Marcus Rashford has now scored more Premier League goals than Carlos Tevez, Eden Hazard, and Dennis Bergkamp. Nottingham Forest do the double over Manchester United for the first time in the Premier League era. Saka has now reached double figures for goals and assists in the last 3 consecutive seasons. Merino is now Arsenal's second highest scorer in the Premier League this season, with 6 goals. At home, Arsenal have never lost to Fulham in a run lasting 31 games. It's an all-time record for an unbeaten home run against an opponent in English Football League history. Liverpool beating Everton was their 100th win against Everton in all competitions, which makes Everton the second team they've beaten over 100 times. The first is Aston Villa, who they have beaten 103 times. The victory 1-0 over Everton was Liverpool's first 1-0 Premier League win at Anfield since May 2023. James Tarkowski now has the joint most yellow cards without ever being sent off in the Premier League history, 63. Nottingham Forest have 57 points so far. It is their second highest total from the opening 30 games since 1977-78, when they had 67 at this point. And this puts them on course to finish in the top 4, which could see them qualify for the Champions League. Well done to them. Nwaneri is the second youngest player across Europe's Big 5 leagues to reach 10 goal involvements in all competitions, 8 goals, 2 assists, who is only behind Lamine Yamal, who of course is way ahead of that. Merino's 6 goals is the highest he has ever returned in a season in his career. In 25 Premier League games, Leicester have conceded the opening goal. Number 2 is Manchester United, who have conceded 23 opening goals. with Strand Larsen's goal against West Ham. He has now scored 10 goals this season, with only Raul Jimenez scoring more in his debut season than him. Right, they have finally found their successor. Oh, and Jimenez scored 13 goals. Darwin Núñez has missed 14 chances, and that is well more than anybody else. Last season we used to joke about him and Nicholas Jackson, but Jackson has really improved since then. It's Núñez's turn. Maybe next season is his year. The most selected player globally was Salah. The most captain player globally was Salah. The most vice-captained was Isak. The highest points this week was 108. The average points this week was 44. So like I said in the beginning, if you got over 44, well done. The top transfers in this week, with no surprise, it is Saka. 370,000 have brought him in. Saliba, 214,000 have brought him in. I guess they're just straight swapping for him and Gabriel. Mamouche, 207,000 have brought him in. Milenkovic, 154,000. Isaac, 133,000. Top players out. Kluivert, 408,000. Gabriel, 398,000. Wood, 272,000. Ola Aina, 211,000. Trent, 143,000. The highest performing team had 108 points, and they used their bench boost. The name is in Arabic and I can't read Arabic, so I can't say the name. In goal, he had Sanchez, 6 points. Munoz, 2 points. Cucurella, 5 points. Colwell, 6 points. Salah, 3 points. Merino, 10 points. Asensio, 12 points. Luis Diaz, 9 points. Mamouche captain, 18 points. Strand Larsen, 9 points. Isak, 8 points. Jose Sa, 5 points. Kwanzaa, 0. Tonali, 10. Nico Williams, 5. And that gave them 108 points. In our table, Suleiman FC got the highest points. He got 87 points. At the back, he had Sels, and then Konate, and then Timber. Okay, so Sels gave him 8, Konate gave him 6, Timber gave him 7, Vardiol gave him 6, Jacob Murphy gave him 5, Palmer gave him 6, Bumo gave him 8, Elanga gave him 11, Isak gave him 18 as captain, Wissa gave him 5, Mamouche gave him 9. So absolutely everybody performed in his team. The second highest score was Turn Up, 79, tied with Hadar Yassin's Pit Stank FC. And number 4 we had El Fleek, manager of CPELFA United, 73, which was a tie with 2 Girls 1 Club, Mohamed Jibril, number 5. Neville Jabali made the most transfers this week, making 13 transfers. That's wild. Number 2 was Don Clinton, who made 12. Number 3 was Adan Rashid Ali, who made 5. Rashok Ngailo made 5 as well. And in number 5, it was August Manu, who made 5 changes as well. Playboy Fati has seen the highest team change in value. He has added 0.7 to his bank. Overall rank riser is Suleiman FC, who jumped 721,000 positions globally. Well done. In the league, manager Turn Up has jumped 26 positions. Congratulations to you, sir. Highest team value still remains with Suraj Baigane, 106.6. Keep it up. When it comes to disappointing transfer outcomes, Neville Jabali, who, as you just heard, made 13 changes, lost 36 points. Don Clinton lost 33. Hakuna Matata lost 15. Stevie G was tied for 4th and 5th with Madman Bielsa, who lost negative 9 points. Most points on the bench this week belongs to a manager who's been with us for a while, Mr. Ellie D, the dark horse, left 27 points on the bench. And just like me, he had all of his Nottingham Forest players on the bench, and that's so painful. Ellie, I know that pain. Maybe not as well as you, but I know that pain. Melita Elvis is number 2. He had 23 points on the bench. Johnny Watson had 21 points on the bench. Simnani Joe had 20 points on the bench. And number 5 is Yusufa Mukoko, 19 points on the bench. When it comes to losing value, Leeches, managed by Victor Nell, has lost 1.9 million in their team value. Goodness, that's a lot. Most decrease in Oro rank is Dennis Gaviga. He dropped 529,000 points globally. When it comes to streak of red arrows, Ahman Jr., Aboki Jr., has now gotten 8 red arrows in a row. Sorry. When it comes to the least points, that honor belongs to Gift Omulangi. Gift Choni FC. They got a whopping 16 points. This is a tough team. This is a tough team. So, Raya 2, Saliba 2, Akanji 0, Delict 2, Bruno 2, Saka 8, Kudus 0, Longstaff 0, Watkins 0, Haaland 0. Of course, Watkins was his vice captain, who got 0. And Watkins did play, just did nothing. And also, by the way, Watkins really did well to get out of the way of a goal. That was impressive. That's as good as an assist in my view. If you haven't seen it, check out the Villa highlights. Anyway, he got 0 because he got a yellow card. And Ivan Toney, goodness, imagine somebody has Ivan Toney in his team. It's not serious. And that's how he got 16. But from a team that actually tried, the lowest is 21. They made 2 transfers. They had Pickford in goal, who got 3, Saliba, who got 2, Kakes, who got 1, Munoz, who got 2, Rice, who got 1, Bruno, who got 2, Captain Salah, who got him 6, Trossard, who got him 1, Mitoma 2, Gakpo 1, and Watkins 0. And just looking at his bench, I'm telling you guys, we just need to believe in Forest. That's all we need to do. And then watch them get 0 and 1 next week. Lowest team value belongs to Malik United, 96.6. Dennis Gaviga has dropped the most positions in our league table. He has dropped 26 positions. The most green arrows belongs to Onyango Mandela, manager of Katambe. 8th straight week of green arrows. That must feel so nice. Well done to you, sir. Dark Horse, who had the most points on the bench, used his wild card. And as a result of that, he has made an impressive 39 points thanks to his acquisitions, which means that his team did better than it would have had he not made the changes. So well done to you on one end, and then sorry for not putting the right players in the right way. The team with the most goal scorers belongs to Abdallah Kili, manager of Kili. And they have scored 4 goals, or rather, he has 4 different goal scorers. When it comes to captain choices, Mr. Salah was an overwhelming favorite, with 148 of us choosing him as captain. Number 2 was Mamouche. 20 of us chose him as captain. Can you believe that difference? Haaland was chosen by 18 of us, and majority of those are inactive managers. Bruno Fernandes was chosen by 10. That might be his highest this season. Palmer was chosen by 10. Kluivert was chosen by 6. Wood was chosen by 5. Isak by 5. Solanke by 3. Odegaard by 2. Sarr, Savinho, Cunha, Haaland, Ruben, Foden, De Bruyne, Delap, Mateta, chosen by 1 manager each. When it comes to our league table, number 1 stays the same. We have Yusufa Mukoko, who has 51 points for a grand total of 2054 points. Number 2 is Abdallah Kili, 68 points, which sees him have a grand total of 2052. Duboy FBL, 2051. So those are the top 3. It's just a 3-point difference. So number 4 is Taxistens, 2025. Otio Mondi, 2024. Total Football David Moy, 2016. Eric Maranga, 2016. Andriy Shenko, 2009. Alan Muchangi, 1996. Madangani Kihoro, 1995. So as you can see, it looks like there's a bit of separation beginning to happen at the very top of the table. The top 3 are just 3 points within each other. And then from number 4 to number 7 is just 10 points. And then from number 7 to number 10 is about 20 points. 100 points from number 1 is number 25 with 1954. So it is still, in theory, doable if you have 2 or 3 great game weeks. But yeah, it's the separation With only 8 weeks left to go, so the pressure is getting worse and worse. On the other end, that's not even close. The last person hasn't reached 1,000 points yet, and the second last is over 100 points better than the second last. And then the third last is nearly 200 points better than the second last. Then the fourth last is roughly 70 points better. And then the fifth last is just 10 points better than the fifth last. So maybe 233 is our real last position where it feels competitive. As we look forward to game week 31, it must be said that there's a game week 32 double, there's a game week 33 double, a game week 34 blank. And as you know, the blanks are created by FA Cup fixtures. So if your team is in the FA Cup, that's an easy way to know who is not playing that weekend. So early kickoff begins on Saturday, 2:30 local time in Kenya. Everton take on Arsenal. Everton finally saw the unbeaten run come to an end when they lost 1-0 to Liverpool. They were unlucky not to get something out of that game because Beto really gave them a run for their money. Saka is back for Arsenal and he scored the winning goal against Fulham. The last time these two sides met in December, it was a draw, 0-0. But outside that, Arsenal have won 3 of their last 5 encounters. They've lost 1 and drawn 1, won 3, which makes Arsenal favourites. With Saka back, they even seem much more likelier to win now. Now that the bubble has burst for Everton, this might be a beginning stretch of losses for them. Now, not because they're going to lose, but because they also have, coincidentally, a tough run of fixtures against strong teams. Now, of course, Gabriel is out and that may factor in how strong their defense is. Timber left as well, and so it's not clear whether he will be back. Calvert-Lewin, McNeil, Lindstrom and Mangala are out, whilst White, Gabriel, Jesus, Timber, Havertz, Calafiori, Tomiyasu are unavailable, which probably means Kiwior is playing, and depending on how you feel about Kiwior, it could be a differential or it could be a curse. So I'll let you guys decide on that one. If you're choosing Arsenal players, honestly at this point it's just going to be Merino, Saka and Odegaard. Martinelli looks good. He was quite threatening. So he could be the third or fourth. On the other end, on the Everton side, if you believe they'll keep a clean sheet, you have to have Pickford and maybe Tarkowski. If not, you're best believing in Beto, Doucouré and Mangala. Crystal Palace take on Brighton. Crystal Palace have drawn 2, lost 2 and won 1, with their first victory being their most recent victory. Riyad, Doucouré and Richards are unavailable for Crystal Palace, whilst Webster, Kadioglu, Rutter, Igor, Milner, Steele, Veltman and Lamptey are unavailable for Brighton. Having had the head-to-head, it seems like Brighton have a slight advantage over Crystal Palace. Both teams were unimpressive last time out, so both teams will be looking to recover. Brighton were hammered by Aston Villa, whilst Crystal Palace could only draw in the last minute against Southampton. So both sides need to show an improved performance from that last time out. On Crystal Palace's end, your top 3 will be Mateta, Eze, Sarr. Sarr scored a brace in the last time out, and Chalobah had the other goal. Brighton have had very many different goal scorers for this fixture, so I would say the best bets are the usual suspects. You have Joao Pedro, Minte, Mitoma, and then Welbeck. In what order, you decide. Ipswich versus Wolves. Ipswich, like I've always said, they're competitive. They finally got a win last time out, and they'll be looking to continue this good performance. Wolves also got a win last time out, so both teams are coming off victories, and both will be buoyed. Ipswich won the last encounter 2-1, with Doherty and Taylor scoring whilst Cunha scored for Wolves. Will it be a repeat? Maybe, maybe not. Cunha is still suspended for this game. Gonzalez, Chiwome, Kaladzic, Mosquera are also unavailable for this game for Wolves. For Ipswich, Muric, Ogbene, Davis, Hutchinson, Smotsic, Burns are unavailable. When it comes to Ipswich, you know the first person who you should you have a player from them, is Delap. And then after that, it's Enciso. And now, I would guess maybe the guy who scored, Broadhead, would be the third best player to have. On the Wolves front, honestly, it's just Strand Larsen, Munetsi, who was unlucky not to score, and Bellegarde. And then, if you want a defender, Ait Nouri. West Ham versus Bournemouth. Both teams lost last time out, and both teams will be looking to do better. Their head-to-head shows that this is a dull game, which usually ends 1-1, 1-0. There's an outlier which ends 4-0, which West Ham won. But apart from that, let me read you the most recent score. Bournemouth, West Ham 1-1. West Ham 1-0. West Ham 1-1. Bournemouth 1-1. 4-0, 2-0. So, should you expect anybody to win? It is most likely going to be West Ham, but it looks like it will be quite tight. So definitely do not choose a captain from this fixture. Somerville and Antonio are the only missing players from West Ham. So Fulkrug is finally back. On Bournemouth's end, however, Unal, Araujo, Kluivert, Sinisterra, and Tavernier are unavailable. Now, Kluivert is doubtful, so he might play, but as it stands, he's on that list. West Ham have been unimpressive since Mr. Potter took over, and I have no reason to have faith in them. But that doesn't prevent me from recommending players from their team. And from their team, it's quite easy. You have Paqueta, Bowen, and maybe Wan-Bissaka, because if this is the kind of game which could end 1-0, they could win, but they could also lose. But maybe Bowen and Paqueta. And if you want to gamble with a forward, maybe Ferguson. On the other end, Evan Nilsson has been in great form for them. I would say Evan Nilsson, Cook, and then your choice of either Ouattara or Semenyo. And Kirk is never a bad guy to have, but he's been a bit quiet. And then we look at Aston Villa versus Nottingham Forest. Both teams are coming off impressive victories. Both teams are gunning for Europe. Nottingham Forest won this encounter last time with Milankovic and Elanga scoring. Duran was a scorer last time out, but he's since left and been replaced adequately with Asensio and Rashford. Honestly, I'd forgotten all about John Duran. It's incredible how you can just move on. In their last 5 encounters, both teams have won twice and drawn once. So, depending on how you feel about their current form, you might say Wood being unavailable shifts things, but you might say Elanga, Hudson-Odoi, Morgan Gibbs-White might change your opinion versus also they have been having a strong defense, so Milenkovic, Sells, they're all looking strong. On the other hand, you have Aston Villa still playing the Champions League. They might make a weird decision, but honestly, Rashford, Asensio, Morgan Rogers are the best bets. I feel like Watkins is now out of the picture. Not that he's not playing, he's still there, but he doesn't seem to be as important as he has been. On the other end, if you are going to choose a first player, I would say Langa is in quite impressive form right now. If you want a differential, you can just run with Yates, but probably Morgan Gibbs-White and Hudson-Odoi should you be wanting to go forward. If you want to mix, you can choose one of those players combined with Milenkovic and Sells or Murillo. Just choose what suits your budget. Brentford versus Chelsea. Their head-to-head favors Brentford with 2 victories, 2 draws, and 1 loss. Now, that was during Chelsea's down years, so I'm not sure how accurate that is. Most recently, Chelsea beat them 2-1 with Cucurella and Nicholas Jackson scoring. Now, when it comes to availability, Carvalho, Thiago da Silva, Jensen are unavailable for Brentford. Wow, there are many people back. That's good for them. Slonina, Guiu, Kellyman, Lavia, Fofana are out for Chelsea. So basically, their real players are still available. Chelsea won last night against Spurs, whilst Brentford lost 2-1 to Newcastle. Both are reasonable results, and so both will be looking to build upon those results. Of course, for Brentford, Wissa, Bumo, Damsgaard are your best bets. For Chelsea, it is still Palmer, and I'd say Cucurella because apart from the dip, in the last 3 games, he's had 36 points. In the last 4 games, he's had 36 points. That's impressive. Nicholas Jackson made his comeback, so I don't know. I don't know if he's back yet, but he played. So maybe Neto instead? Or Enzo, if you're choosing 3 Chelsea players. So Palmer, Cucurella, and then one of Neto or Fernandes. Fulham take on Liverpool. This game always tends to be interesting. Fulham at home. Fulham, for whatever reason, know how to be competitive against Liverpool. Their last scores are 2-2, then they lost 3-1, then they drew 1-1, then they lost 2-1, and then they lost 4-3. So Liverpool are the better team, but this is a kind of game, as you've just heard from the results, that Liverpool don't tend to keep a clean sheet in. So expect an encounter that will be interesting. Most likely both teams will score, and I would say Gakpo, Jota, Salah are your best bets in this game. On the other end, Muniz, Pereira, maybe Iwobi or Traore as your best bets. I wouldn't touch the defense unless you've got a strong feeling, but it should be an interesting game. So Salah, Gakpo, and Jota, and then your choice of Pereira, Muniz, Iwobi, Traore. On the other end, you have Tottenham versus Southampton. This is a kind of game that could end 1-1 again because Tottenham are unpredictable. Tottenham lost last time out to Chelsea, and they'll be looking to do better. They keep doing this rotation of their squad, so it's hard to know who will play. But should you believe in them, it might not be too bad an idea to get a defender, although betting on Tottenham defense is a bad idea. So scratch that. Get your Son, Maddison, and Solanke. And on the Southampton end, Onuachu, Sulemana, Fernandes. And that leads us straight to our marquee game of the week, and that will see the Manchester derby. Manchester United are in horrible form, and they haven't beaten anybody good in a long time. Man City are not in great form, but are in much better form than Manchester United. When City slump, they are flirting with Champions League at number 4. When Manchester United, when they slump, it looks like they might be relegated, even if they won't, but that's how low they go. So their bottoms are different, and their ceilings are different. I don't know what Manchester United will need to do to win this game, but to be honest, they have been not too bad in this game. They defeated Manchester City last time out in the Premier League. They beat them 2-1. They lost some penalties to Manchester City in the Community Shield. They beat them in the FA Cup, and then they lost 2 more times. So it is 2-2 and a draw. So will Manchester United raise their level for this game? Well, should they do that, you know that Fernandes will be a big part of this. Ahmad was the giant killer, but he's unavailable. And speaking of unavailable players, Haaland is unavailable. Stones, Akanji, Ake, and Rodri are out, whilst Heaton, Shaw, Martinez, Mainu, Evans, Heaven, was it Heaven? I don't know, and Ahmad are unavailable for Manchester United. Even though Manchester United lost, they were still impressive against Forest. Fernandes, Garnacho, and Zirkzee would be your best bets for Manchester United. For Manchester City, Mamouche, Foden, and maybe Doku. Those are the 3 I would recommend. But Mamouche and Foden, or Silva. Silva tends to play big games. Those 3. Let's say Mamouche and Foden. Then choose a third one if you want. And then you have Newcastle versus Leicester. And I'm going to tell you for free right now, my captain is coming from this game. And it only really depends on if Isak will play, because he is currently doubtful as we speak. He was replaced early with an injury, hamstring. It ruins my double game week plans, but I was hoping he would be there anyway. As it stands, he's currently potentially unavailable. And then Gordon, Lascelles, Joelinton, Trippier, Hall, Botman. On the Leicester side, Edouard, Fatawu, Sota are unavailable. So Newcastle won, Leicester lost. Leicester keep losing, Leicester don't score. So I'm going to have a defender. I'm going with Dan Barnes. You can choose a defender you want. And then I'm going to have Jacob Murphy because he's been doing well. Now, if Isak doesn't play, it'll probably be Callum Wilson who'll be put up top. And then probably Harvey Barnes on the other end. So I'll say your preferred Newcastle defender and maybe even goalkeeper. And then Murphy and Isak. And if Isak doesn't play, maybe Callum Wilson. I do not recommend a player from the Leicester side, but just for parity, I would say get yourself Vardy, Buonanotte. Actually, scratch that. Have Vardy, El Kanous, and Patson Daka. That's it. When it comes to captain choices, now you have Everton versus Arsenal. Clearly, Merino and Saka are clear options. I also think Beto is an undervalued possibility. Crystal Palace versus Brighton, both teams do not inspire me. Ipswich versus Wolves, Strand Larsen. And Ipswich, I would say Delap, of course. West Ham Bournemouth, I wouldn't choose a captain. On the Villa game, that would be interesting. Villa Forest. You have the possibility of Rashford and Asensio, of course, and Morgan Rogers. Maybe in that order. And then from Forest, Elanga. Brentford versus Chelsea. Bumo Palmer. Liverpool, Fulham, Muniz, Salah. Spurs, Southampton. You know, this should have been the clear winner, but it isn't because you also don't know who's going to play. So maybe Son or Maddison or Solanke. Man United versus Man City. If Man United do anything in this game, it will come through Bruno. So him on the Man City end. I would say Mamouche still. Leicester versus Newcastle. If fit, Isak. And then if you want to be safe, maybe a defender. And then if you're a bit of a gambler, maybe Jacob Murphy. At the top of the global table, you have the Ruby Reds, managed by Susan Clark. And you heard that correctly. A lady is the best FPL player. She's got 2,229 points. In her team, she has Sels as keeper, Milenkovic, Saliba, Vardiol, Howard Bellis. Then she has Bruno, Salah, Iwobi, Bumo, Watkins, Joao Pedro. On the bench, she has Kluivert, Trent, and Wood. So of course you know some changes are going to be made. The top of the table, now you know how that team looks and how different your team is from that. When it comes to the FPL FDR, Arsenal take on Everton, Brentford, then they have a double game week in game week 33. And then they have a blank game week in game week 34. And then they have Bournemouth. Aston Villa have Forest, Southampton. Then they have a double game week which consists of Newcastle and Manchester City. And then a blank game week and then Fulham. Arsenal play Ipswich and Crystal Palace in that double game week. So if you're looking for a better, in quotes, double game week to use your triple captain on, if you haven't used that yet, I would go game week 33 over game week 32 because Newcastle, in theory, have more difficult fixtures than Arsenal have in the double game week. Bournemouth have West Ham, Fulham, Crystal Palace, Man United, and Arsenal. All of these are reasonable for them. Brentford have Chelsea, Arsenal, Brighton, Forest, Man United. 3 out of those 5 are difficult. 1 is easy, 1 is tricky. Brighton have Crystal Palace, Leicester, Brentford, West Ham, and Newcastle. Those are all winnable fixtures. Chelsea have Brentford, Ipswich, Fulham, Everton, and Liverpool. Crystal Palace have 2 double game weeks in a row. So they first of all have Brighton, then they have Man City, Newcastle, and then have Bournemouth, Arsenal. So either way, just load up on Crystal Palace players. It's better to have 2. Better to have 4 than 2, Just something simple like that. Everton have Arsenal, then Forest, then Man City, then Chelsea, and then Ipswich. Like I said earlier, their fixtures ramp up in difficulty. So If it's within your power, get away from them. Fulham have Liverpool, Bournemouth, Chelsea, Southampton, and Aston Villa. So that is a bit of a mixed bag. After Liverpool, the games are a bit tricky but winnable. Ipswich have Wolves, Chelsea, Arsenal, Newcastle, and Everton. All of these games are sort of difficult for them, but they're competitive and it could go either way, but they'll most likely lose, but they will be competitive. Leicester have Newcastle, Brighton, Liverpool, Wolves, and Southampton. This might be the most reasonable stretch they've had in a while, but they're probably still going to lose all of these games. Liverpool have Fulham, West Ham, Leicester, Tottenham, and Chelsea. For Liverpool, they can honestly win all of these games. Get their players. Man City have Man United, then Crystal Palace, then a double game week which shows up with Everton and Aston Villa, and then a blank, and then Wolves. Manchester United have Man City, Newcastle, Wolves, Bournemouth, Brentford. Honestly, after the Newcastle game, well, there's no easy fixture for Manchester United. They're like an Ipswich. Anyway, so just get Fernandes after the Newcastle game. Newcastle, on the other hand, have Leicester, Man United, Crystal Palace, Aston Villa, Ipswich, and Brighton. These are all winnable fixtures, especially if Isak will be available. That is the condition, actually. If he's available, it is a different ballgame. So watch that space closely. Forest have Aston Villa, Everton, Tottenham, Brentford, and Crystal Palace. These are all winnable games, and once Wood comes back, it'll look much better. But even without him, I believe they have enough. Southampton have Spurs, Villa, West Ham, Fulham, and Leicester. There's no easy fixture for them. They're in between Leicester and Ipswich, so they're competitive, but they are more likely to lose or draw than they are to win. Whilst Leicester are more likely to lose than to draw. And definitely not to win. And then Ipswich are more likely to draw and then win or lose. It's really 25, 25, 25. Or is it 33, 33, 33? Anyway, Spurs have Southampton, Wolves, Forest, Liverpool, West Ham. So it ascends in difficulty up until Liverpool and then it goes down again. West Ham have Bournemouth, Liverpool, Southampton, Brighton, and Spurs. West Ham, I don't even know how to feel about them. They're incredibly underwhelming. And so outside Leicester and the bottom three, they might be the team to be betting against. Wolves have Ipswich, Spurs, Man United, Leicester, and Man City. So it's a bit of a mixed bag. Ipswich, in theory, is their last easiest game. And then they have Spurs, which is winnable. Man United is definitely winnable. Leicester is definitely winnable. And then they have Man City, which they could lose. So actually, they have a good run of fixtures. We just need Cunha to come back. And that is the FDR. We have 8 weeks left to go. So this is a time to take risks and to do your best to try and change your position in the league. I wish you all the best. See you tomorrow on the pitch. Bye.